Welcome to Season 2 with the Market Mystics, where we discuss and redefine markets, wealth, and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Join us on the journey while we consider new possibilities with special guests who might just challenge a few perspectives. Get ready to dive in deep with your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Josh, what's going on?
Well, it's a beautiful Thursday. We're getting ready to go into the weekend. I'm going to be spending some time celebrating some birthdays in the family, hopefully around a pool, so it should be nice. Hopefully the weather's great.
Hopefully. I bet it will be. Us Northern Hemisphere people, we're enjoying summer right now. At least I am.
It's been great. It's not been a brutal summer so far, and it's been really enjoyable to be outside.
So true. So true. Okay, so let's dig into a topic for today. We're going to talk about money, which we haven't done. We haven't done much this season at all. We've talked to others about it, but we haven't personally talked about it.
That's true. Yeah. And I'm kind of excited to jump into this and just see where the conversation goes. But one of the things we wanted to first talk about was just mindsets around money and like what's that been like, what's that look like in your life, and maybe different types of mindsets we've seen or experienced. And yeah, let's just jump into it.
Okay. Well, Josh, what's your money mindset?
I think this is interesting because it's been different things through different times. But one of the second part of this, which we can tie in together at the same time, is like what was your upbringing like with money, and how did that impact the way you currently view money?
Mm-hmm.
And I was very blessed in my upbringing with money because I had parents and a father who worked extremely hard to provide, and I never had a need. And so one thing that did was sort of shift my mindset into that money wasn't scarce, which is often something that kids pick up from childhoods. Especially where, it's always talking about bills, or we need to buy the cheaper thing, or maybe you're shopping at discount stores, or, somewhere along the line, a lot of adults that I know grew up with a money is scarce mindset. And that wasn't a thing in my life. And one of the things that did was allow me to sort of have a mindset where money wasn't central to my life. And I really appreciate that mindset. I really appreciate my upbringing, that both of my parents provided for me, and my relationship with money that came from that. Now, there have been times as an adult where I have felt that money was scarce, and kind of set with, well, how do I manage this? What am I going to do for income? How am I going to pay these bills? So there have been moments as adults, but that wasn't at the core. That isn't my relationship with money. And I think that has been valuable in my life because it's allowed me to make decisions about what I'm going to do, what I'm going to eat, where I'm going to go, without money being the core reasoning behind that. And I like, not to be rash or irresponsible, but I think that can be I have enjoyed that way of living life where money doesn't dictate my decisions. What about you?
That's interesting. I had an interesting upbringing with money, in that my parents were divorced when I was 1. And I grew up living with my mom full time and then visiting my dad and his family on the weekends. And it was a very I had very opposing experiences with both parents. So my mom worked very hard and had a hard time making ends meet. And it was very much buying the cheapest stuff at the grocery store, stretching every penny, watching every penny, that kind of mindset. And then on the flip side, my dad also worked very hard, was an entrepreneur, built a company that did very well. And he wound up being very well off. And so with him, it was going out to eat, not worrying about where food's coming from, being able to go shopping and pick out whatever clothes you want. It was just very, very polar opposite. And I think that served to really, I feel like how I engage with money, how money affects me, it could have gone either way for me because I saw both. I think there's a benefit in seeing and experiencing both sides of that, right? Because you can really see the value of having money work for you so that it stretches and goes further, but also not lying awake at night wondering how you're going to live the next day. Right. And never having that worry. So it was a very interesting upbringing. And then as an adult, I had some rough times in my early 20s when I was making almost minimum wage and, buying like the mustard and the bologna and having sandwiches for dinner every night, or, like some of that. But I was also fresh out of college and like in my first job out of college, and that changed very quickly. And I did really get to the point where I was much more money secure and didn't really have to worry about, living paycheck to paycheck. So I've just had I've been all over the spectrum, I would say, with my experience with money. However, it's also really served to not put money as like the highest power in my life.
Yeah.
But I can see how it works differently with different people in different situations. And I think some of that is really fascinating because what $1 will do for one person is completely different than what $1 will do for another.
Right.
And I think there's some very deeply spiritual principles in that because of how you see money, how you interact with it, how you position it in your life. All of those things can make such a difference.
Would you say that the vast upbringing that you had, the variety of experiences you've had with money, does that help you recognize when you currently are shifting from one mindset to another? Like, because you've been there, does it help you? Or is it still just kind of internal and it sometimes takes a minute to notice, oh, I'm operating in lack or I'm operating in abundance? Or
Maybe. I don't know. I tend to also be my natural bent is to like take a step back and be objective and not be so subjective about things. And so it's kind of easy for me to take a step back and look at the overarching principle, like what's happening here. So I don't know if that comes from upbringing and those experiences, or if that just comes from like the way that I naturally observe the world or situations or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't answer the question, does it?
No, but that's okay. I just wondered, like, the experience, everyone has different experiences with money, and having multiple different experiences, I just wonder if that helps recognition of, like, oh, I'm not sitting here. I mean, we talk all the time about the importance of awareness. Like,
Yeah.
are you aware of what your relationship is with money? Are you aware of how money flows in and out of your life? Is money, I mean, money is an energy, and does it have, are you, is that energy feel drawn to you, and does that energy feel safe to leave from you? And this is one thing I've heard some people talk about, is if all you ever do is hoard money and money never flows, then money often doesn't feel safe to come, because energy was never created to be stuck. And
Hmm.
so it's just an intriguing, and that doesn't mean you can't have large amounts of wealth, but are you, it makes me think of, like, the parable of the talents, where to one, an amount was given, and to another an amount was given, and another an amount was given, and he buried it in sand, like, and what he had was taken away because he didn't do anything with it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's that, I think that can represent, like, actual talent that we have, but that can also represent money. Like, if we're just sticking money in a savings account, never looking at it, is that, does money feel safe to be there? Like, and I think part of that mindset, I think, comes from uh like a lack of trust, like,
Hmm.
because we don't trust that money will ever return to us.
I would say so. One of the things that I've found in, I don't know, probably the last 8 or 9 years, like kind of this beginning of the mystical journey, or, just kind of shifting from a far apart relationship with the Lord to something closer. I've really found that the mindset of like a poverty mindset, or a mindset of always being in lack, which is kind of what happens when you, like, even if you have a poverty mindset and a lot of money, you still like have to hold on to it, right?
Mm,
And it's like you don't want it to go away. Like, you're gonna have to hold on to it because you didn't have it before and now you do.
mhm,
Um, but it's also so closely related. Like, poverty and greed are so closely related because it like manifests the same way, right?
mhm,
Greed is like the, I have this, it's mine, I'm not letting go of it. And poverty is kind of the same way.
yeah,
It's just that typically poverty is associated with not having much. And so you hold on, and greed is associated with having much and holding on. But at the root of it, it kind of operates the same way.
yeah, yeah, that's good. I and I know we've talked about this, but I was really impacted when I was maybe a teenager or college age by listening to someone talk about money and describing it as a river, or as
Mm.
water. And he was like, when water doesn't flow, it becomes stagnant, it starts to grow things, um, and it isn't as nourishing to consume. But when money is free to flow, then it stays fresh and it's pure. And um and he was like, that doesn't mean your river can't be deep and wide with a vast amount flowing through it. Um but it but keep it moving. And that just was
Mm.
like, it was so impactful for me, and helped my mindset of that. And I've heard of people who are like, oh yeah, at the end of each year we donate all the money that we have, and then we just see what God will do next year. And I'm not promoting that type of lifestyle, unless God specifically calls you to do that. But just allow money, to be an energy that flows in and out. Allow it to be that river in your life that flows in and out, and it'll continue to flow. And as long as you're connected to the source, it'll continue to flow. And money is a really interesting thing, because people who know how to create money, like almost everyone who I know who is like a entrepreneur, business mindset, wealthier person, they've all said money's not really that hard to get. Like, you just go do something. I think where some people get stuck is they want the perfect opportunity. Like, I want to create the perfect business or do the perfect job or something like that. And people who are really entrepreneurial, they just do stuff. And eventually one of them works out or it doesn't, whatever. And that's I think it's that like go-getter mentality where it's like, oh, I'll just try this. I'll just try this. I'll try this. And whether or not it works or not, those people typically, they learn so much about the way the industry works that they're like, oh, I know how to start a business. I know how to get funding. I know how to do this. And it's like, it just suddenly becomes not an obstacle. And I think that that's an admirable thing.
I think so too. And as you were saying that, I was just thinking, it was specifically the part when you were talking about trying new things, see if it works. I'll try this, see if it works. What I feel like happens with that, though, is this invitation for money to come to you.
Yeah.
And I think just like in so many other aspects of our lives, you invite a lot of things to do a lot of things, and some do it and some don't, right? Josh, I invite you to do things sometimes, and sometimes you come and do them, and sometimes you don't. And guess what? I'm not offended by it, but I don't stop inviting either. So I don't invite you once and you say no once, and then I go, I'm never inviting that again. But when we talk about this in regard to money, I think it is very similar. It's a very similar principle. So are you invested enough in having a good relationship with money and allowing it to flow to you that you'll invite it multiple times in multiple different situations and allow it to flow to you when it needs to be able to flow to you, or when it's open to flow to you? Does that make sense? Is this way too out there?
No, I think it makes sense. Like, I think that's exactly right. Like, keep sending the invitation out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And don't allow yourself to be so invested in the yes or no, like in it coming to you or not coming to you, that it annihilates any actual opportunity for a healthy relationship.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like we talked about, we've talked several times about like vulnerability in relationships. And I think you have to have that as well with money. Like, money may come, money may not come. You may have money, you may lose money. But if you don't continue to be open towards it, it may or may not continue to be there.
Right. Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Okay. So thanks for joining. We're going to continue this conversation in part 2. So we'll see you back on Monday.
See you guys. Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com, where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.